Welcome to Melted. This is Frankie Melted Chapsticks Hollywood with a special show today. We're going to have a rock star, an actor. He just cut a 19-song album, Tropical Depression. We're going to welcome to the show Sergio Michel. And a warm, melted welcome to rock star, actor. He's worked with Deep Purple, Cypress Hill, Korn, Metallica, Paris Hilton. He has a new concept double album called Tropical Depression, 19 songs, 5 years in the making via Cold War Relics Records. Welcome to Melted, Sergio Michel.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. It's so good. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really impressed, with your background, the different experiences that you've had in life and your observations on human perspective that have gone into tropical depression. I really appreciate it.
Oh, great. I'm glad you liked it. And, that was the point. I made a album for people who like the classic and the quintessential things of classic rock, hard rock, heavy metal, punk, but a little more cerebral to speak to the kind of crazy things we're all seeing today that may not, that the average person may not want to confront or talk about. And, it's not negative, it's not condescending or attacking in any way. Sometimes it's tongue-in-cheek funny, but it's been received very well. So I'm very glad I executed the mission pretty well, I think.
No, absolutely. And I think if people reflect, on whatever sort of readings or ancient writings, Ecclesiastes says there's nothing new under the sun as well. It just comes in a different form. And it's just really powerful because these are the things, that I think about when you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, having safety and social, before you socialize, you need a place to live and you need food. And there's 8 billion people not eating every day. 1 billion,
Yeah.
1 billion aren't eating a day.
Yeah, and the fact that you bring up Ecclesiastes, which is one of the wisdom books of the Bible, most of the at least the moral compass of tropical depression is biblical, Psalms and Ecclesiastes and Proverbs. And you're right, as they say, nothing new under the sun, as Solomon did wisely say. And to be honest, the thing is that all forms of evil today are being rebranded. And sometimes, people are even being convinced that it's good for them. And basically that's all that happens. Just change the sticker on a bad product. And, people are like, all right, this is awesome. Let's have some more of this. And it's a shame that that's where we are. But sadly, in a populace who doesn't want, the culture in America has changed. It used to be a culture of people who wanted to be informed and who wanted to have the best and most up-to-date and accurate, keyword accurate information. Today, it just seems people go to news sources that pander to their particular political, ideological, religious views, whether they are true or not. It's just, it is not good because it is good. It is good because it agrees with me. And that's basically something that's going on that I know you're observing, I'm observing, and that's what tropical depression basically is about. It's absolutely insane to me, but it is what it is. That is the era we live in, and there's nothing new under the sun.
Right. And that's why I appreciated Abysmal, your first track, with the media and the TV, which was invented in the 50s. If they wanted to teach us how to do brain surgery or things that were good, all they really want to do is sell their products. So
Right.
News really isn't news anymore. And it's also, when you talk about, if we just put it down into, sheeps and goats, people are easily influenced. And I think a lot of this stuff should be illegal with the commercials. I don't watch much TV anymore, but even in watching the Final Four basketball, the commercials there we're showing cars driving faster than you can drive, the normal speed limit and the subliminal stuff. It's just, I think, I'm glad that, you're bringing awareness to it. In other words, if you're going to think for yourself, think critically, and don't be swayed by, really, I go back to George Carlin, who said 1% owns 90% of the wealth. They own the judges, they own the politics, they own all these things. And if you go against these systems, you'll either end up really crucified, or they'll do it in another way. They'll cancel you. And, it's tough to ride that line, and I'm glad at least you're bringing awareness.
Yeah, and one thing people have to remember is, if you put your faith in God, nobody can cancel you. And if you focus on things that, are real, nobody can. I'll give you a perfect example. If you go out, one of the other things that I've perceived, I've been in Hollywood, California, 4 years, working out of there. And then before I lived in Hollywood, in Miami, I was doing a lot of TV, acting and stuff like that. There are people who go to these places in these cities with no talent, no discernible love for the arts, but they just want to be famous. So they go out there and they do everything somebody says. Hey, if you sleep with somebody, you'll get this. Or, hey, if you do this job, you'll get this. And then they wind up being depressed and miserable. And they say, oh, well, the industry's a horrible place, and all they want you to do is favors. I'm like, no, that's not what they want you to do. That's what you had to do, because you're meant to do what you want to do. You just want fame. You're not an artist, So what I did, and it kind of boggles the minds of many people, and to me it's kind of bizarre that it has, is I say, look, I know I'm a good musician. I know I'm a good actor. I like the arts. All I want to do is work. Here's a script. Read it. Did I get the part? No? Okay, move on. Here's my song. Play it. Did I get the part? Do you like it? Blah, blah, or get the gig. There's zero drugs, alcohol, sex, favors, friends, enemies, outside stimulus attached to my art. And it's really bizarre to me that, I say this to people, this is the way I act, and they're actually put off by it. They feel very disturbed by a guy that just knows he's good at something. He goes out and applies himself to this thing and doesn't add to it with outside stimulus. To me, it makes sense, because it's like, okay, that's what you do, right? Acting's about acting, music's about music. But you'd be surprised how many people think that's very off-putting and bizarre.
Right. I think a lot of it is, again, people should make their art to make their art, period. There's 60,000 songs released, I think, on Spotify daily. So, people could look at that and say, oh, there's so much stuff going on. Mine isn't important. Make it important to be you. I wrote a song famous in my own mind. I don't care if I'm playing in front of 2 people or I'm doing it because I want to. Yeah. And even my mother says, thank God for the pandemic, Frankie. You sound better with a mask on. But we just keep doing it, and that's why it's kind of like, a lot of it. Again, I think that the TV shows you have to, get into these systems and act a certain way or sleep around. You don't have to. You can just you just do your art. Now, I speak English, Spanish. I lived in Mexico. I speak Starbucks, texting, and love. And the way I learned Spanish, not only living in Mexico, which I loved, but I watched some novellas, Tui Joe, 14 Mujeres, Tres Caminos, or something like that.
Yeah, Dos Mujeres, Tres Caminos, yeah.
Which, Con mi acento feo.
Dos Mujeres, Tres Caminos. That's old school, man.
It is.
That's like 90s, right?
I know. Don't tell anybody, all right?
Yeah, I won't.
I've been 28 for centuries, but the Muñecas to the Mafia, they've got new ones out now. But which one were you on?
So I was on A Corazón Valiente. I was on as a recurring villain, which I love playing.
Nice.
And then I was on Rostro de la Venganza and Dama y Obrero, which are late 2000s soap operas. They aired between 2016, I want to say, no, 2013 and 2016. But it's great because they're in syndication. So I think I get a lot of South American and African, like Ugandan, followers on Facebook because of the novela than I do in America because of music. It's very funny. So,
No,
so
absolutely, and you're
yeah,
so talented. With it's an amazing gift that you have, and going through it, you picked it up immediately. Say at 4 years old, how would you tell others to become so technical and so proficient? I know you talk about phrasing, but how do
yeah.
people even get up to that? How many beats per minute is it?
I haven't counted the BPMs, but some of my songs are 280, and I play them comfortably. Uh, so let me see. The thing about the phrasing. So I did a stint of amateur bodybuilding in when I was in my maybe 18 or 20 for the MPC, which is the American Amateur Division. And I had, I was blessed enough to have a lot of the guys that were from like Mr. Olympia and Mr. USA around. And one of them, said something that really, caught my attention when I was like 19 years old. He goes, you're a guitar player. You don't think that all this working out affects, your timing, how you play, everything. He goes, every little tendon, every little muscle, everything plays a part in how you live your life. So, if you get too big, you might not be able to punch hard because, you know, your body changes shape, with the contours of the muscle. And I'm like, you know what, this guy's right. And I think everything starts with genetics. So you have to know, see, because God doesn't make mistakes, right? He gives everybody exactly what they need to carry out their life in an effective way. So what you have to do is you have to sit down honestly and look yourself in the mirror and just look at your bone structure, what you're naturally good at, what you gravitate to, what you like, without the coloring of your parents
Oh,
or life or school or what the world has told you. You have something intrinsically built into you that you are meant to accomplish, and you've been given tools not only to pass the time, make yourself happy, like some sort of art or culinary art or musical art, whatever it is, but you've also been given the tools to execute a plan in this life. So if you sit down honestly and take a look at yourself, you can find step one. Then let's say you feel you're lacking. Well, this is life. You're gonna have to work. We live in the physical world. If you're lacking, let's say physical strength to be a tennis player, because that's what you're meant to do. You love tennis. Well, then you're just gonna have to go out there in the sun and suffer for a few years to get your body up to point so you can do what you love. Just like with music, you're gonna have to pick up that guitar sometime and try to play if you want to be a great guitar player. And I think that those basic, those old world ways of looking at things are gone today. Today we're told, well, you can be a internet superstar. Well, why? Why do you need to be an internet superstar? Do you have some sort of wisdom, talent that people need to hear what you're saying? Do you have some sort of expertise where you can help the youth of the world live a better life? Or is it just, oh, well, I just want to be famous and get followers? There's no purpose to that. God is not there. Where there is no purpose, God is not there. And if God is not there, there is no purpose, right? So if
it,
there is no purpose, why are you doing it?
well,
It's
my
vanity
people, my people lack, suffer for a
yeah,
lack of vision,
for lack of vision, right?
and so that is so true. Because
Right.
again, with Black Mirror, the show, when we look at technology, how we're almost becoming robots because the humankind was free when the telephone had a cord. Now
Oh, I
that it's
love it.
cordless, we are in prison. So it's just, again, the narcissism, which is all talked about. People have written about this stuff for years. But if you're not helping, then really what are you doing?
Nothing.
Because, right, it's just, it's pointless. It's kind of like, it's so empty. And then you get into wow, this guy had so many followings. Why are you depressed? Well,
Right.
because you're not doing the stuff that, giving is where you receive. And
Yes.
it's just so interesting, which comes to this topic of Instagram fame. The artwork for Tropical Depression, which I really enjoyed. And I know it's based off of, living down in, South Florida. Not that anyone is vain in Miami. I love it no matter where you are. When we had the before, when you can go out, it's like, what do you drive? What are you wearing? Who do you know?
Yeah.
But the Vietnamese artist, Thang Tran,
Yeah.
how did you guys come up with this? And it's a wonderful album cover for Tropical Depression.
Thank you. Yeah. So I penciled in the artwork, and I said, look, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for basically a metaphor for modern living, because I saw this coming in I want to say in the early 2000s when MySpace failed and collapsed. Before then, I remember I had almost close to 1 million followers on MySpace and very interactive. And then something happened to my profile when it got switched over. Basically you lost all your contacts. And I said, I don't think the social media thing is good because somebody else is in control of the switch. Then I started seeing in the late 90s, and it reminded me of what I saw in the late 90s, where, they're like, bundle your internet service, bundle your phone service, bundle this. And I say, wait a minute, what's stopping one entity from shutting them all off? Because I know that if a hurricane hits or there's a flood, the phone is just two contacts. Even if it's underwater, it still works. So I could always call the cops if I have to. And I know the television is transmitting via air, so you can't stop a transmitter. And the internet dial-up, so it kind of sucked. That was in the 90s, right? So, but I'm like, why do I need all this together? Can't you just give me faster internet without taking my phone and TV into your own hands? So I started seeing the connection between, they're putting everything together in a switch, an off switch. And when I saw that you could lose 1 million followers on something like MySpace, I said, I'm not going to invest in this social media thing. And there was one woman, I remember her name was Christine Dolce. She was, I think it was Forbidden XO or something like that. Well, this girl had a jean line. She was a model. She was doing acting, and it was all based on MySpace. When MySpace died, this girl disappeared. You couldn't find her because her whole life was based on this one website. Tio Tequila, Metal Sanas, there's a couple of girls that spun it and got off that train before it died and translated to TV, and they're successful. But I started learning from these examples. I'm like, dude, you can't trust these numbers. These numbers are inaccurate. They exist on the internet. They're not real. They're not real life. These are not real people that you're meeting. They're not buying your product. They're not shaking your hand. They're not getting to know you. This is just touch and go, and it's very dangerous. So I put zero faith in social media. So back to the cover of Tropical Depression, basically those observations I've been seeing for the last 20 years, the woman is a personification of that. She's got wonderful pearls. She's dressed to the nines. She looks like she doesn't need, she doesn't need a boyfriend. She doesn't need friends. She has her internet followers. She has a bag full of money. But hey, one day that hurricane's going to come when Instagram and Facebook or YouTube gets sold or fail or bought out or the FCC breaks them up. Then what? What are you going to do? You've invested 10, 15, 20 some years of your life as a podcaster, speaking on a medium where that if they take this medium away, you don't exist. You have no brick and mortar. You've done nothing. You haven't created a work of art. You haven't spoken at a rally. You haven't run for, office. There is no physical proof that you exist. You exist solely on the internet. What are you going to do when the internet is taken away? And people hear me say this and they think I'm insane. And I'm like, nope. Nope. The day's coming when Instagram goes the way of the dodo, and you're going to have a generation of broken people who have never made real friends, who don't know how to speak to the opposite sex. Procreation rates in America are going down. IQs have plummeted. People are dumber than ever. And it's all because we don't have to talk anymore. We don't have to compete for friendship. We don't have to impress the neighbor to be their friend. Remember the bully in the neighborhood. You have to prove yourself to be cool enough to hang out with them. Eventually they became your best friend. We've lost that human dynamic, and now it's all, well, my value is how many people like a post. Well, they're not really liking your post, Stephanie. They're liking your boobs. Sorry.
Right.
And one day you're gonna be too old for that too, and they're just gonna move on to Melissa, or they don't care about you, and that's it. So that's a long-winded explanation of what the cover is. The cover represents the coming apocalypse of social media, but the storm's gonna blow everything away.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think whatever system it may be, communism, capitalism, socialism, Marxism, any sort of system that we have, when the humans are involved, there's going to be a problem because of greed, etc. Because we could say, hey, we're sharing. People are not doing that. And being in corporate America myself and seeing it, and just the lack of listening to ideas or art or thoughts, it's more of a dictatorship, and that if you try to even infringe on their power, you will be cut out. And so it's been a valuable lesson through this pandemic anyways, a lot of isolation for me, spending time playing music, etc. And but when I did go out, I know how to converse, and I would see people on their phones. And so, like when I interviewed the Dives, the Ghost in the Pale Blue Light, everybody has these filters when you're doing the online dating. It's not even them. People are afraid to turn the light on the inside and really look at yourself and accept yourself for who you are. And you can put up this big persona or whatnot, but are you sleeping at night? Do you feel good about that? But I really feel like technology has hindered a lot of the generations, and not that we don't criticize generations before or after, but it does seem like people are less inclined to really engage.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. It's a very bizarre world. I mean, if you would have told me this was happening when I was 15 years old, I would have said, you're just nuts. That sounds like Invasion of the Body Snatchers or something.
Well, it actually is, because it's the marketing that they do, the cookies that they put on the site. So say if I look at a Les Paul guitar, everywhere I go on the internet, whether it's to look at sports, that Les Paul shows up. Or if I've collected enough cans to get a car that I like, everywhere I go, that car shows up.
Yes.
I want to be left alone. So I really admire the fact that you understand, even if people tried, if they don't like your art or they try to cancel you, you're making your art, and those that appreciate you will appreciate you for what it is.
Yeah, and this is a very bizarre thing that I've run into. I've had people email me begging me to change. If you just stop being so aggro, because they see, the people who cancel, they don't understand masculinity and femininity, right? They live in a world where it's just everything. It's very bizarre. They don't understand. So when they see a kind of salt of the earth guy that's just like, yes, no, go to the gym, take care of yourself, be cool, rock and roll, it disturbs them, because that male archetype is not supposed to exist according to them. They don't like it. So I've had people tell me, oh, if you just change your tone, if you just change, we'd love you. I mean, we love your music, but we just can't like you because everyone our friends would say something. I'm like, well, then you're a robot. It's like, I'm not even disturbing anybody. I'm like, what, you're mad because I play a loud guitar and I talk about interpersonal issues between men and women? I mean, every generation's songs are about that. Every song's a love song, or like she broke up or he did something bad. That's not new.
Or marry me, Cindy. I mean, it happens.
Yeah, it happens. And that oh man, that's an ongoing saga. That is it's just such a bizarre ongoing saga with me and her. It's like, oh yeah. It's but the thing is, well, she, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say it. She's another one. She's a third wave feminist. So, she's basically like, yeah, I love you, but all my woke friends won't let me hear the end of it. And I'm like, so you got a guy who wrote an album for you, who's been your friend for like 15 years and has asked nothing of you, and you love them, but you think that the mob's gonna come after you if you do. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Let's just be friends. So I mean, at this point, I mean, we're okay. But that's, imagine that. I mean, that's the reason we're not together. So I mean, that's like a breaking news on your show.
Well, the other thing is too, though,
really...
it's kind of like it goes back to really honestly Romeo and Juliet as well, when you have different families, etc.
Yeah.
Or you have O. Henry's story about the person that cut their hair to buy the tie clip, and he cut his tie to, I mean, people are just so, it's whatever you're going through as a person, there are 100 other million people going through it. It doesn't mean that what you're going through isn't important, because it is to you, and it's important to take care of your stuff. But I like to tell people that they're not alone, and it's the story of time. You may look for, as you don't want to be unequally yoked. So in some ways, these things work out for a reason. Yeah. And I would rather, I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. So, imagine, my uncle made this statement one time. He said, imagine living with all of your ex-girlfriends. I go, oh my God. Hey, how you doing? Get screamed at. But I thought that was, again, another instance in your life. And you wrote a whole album.
Yeah, and so the thing with Marry Me Cindy, which is, to the listeners, it's an album I did in 2013, and it went over very, very well with mainstream audiences in America. Because it was basically, look, I just said, you know what, I had a best friend at the time, I proposed to her, and basically her friends talked her out of it. And it was bizarre. So I have a, kind of a comedian, a dark humor, I guess. And I said, so I started embellishing the story. Well, I'm like, well, what about if this happened? And that's how I got that album, the concept album. Then I stepped away from that kind of writing and did a more heavy metal approach, more dark wave goth type of stuff, with Cry Out, Hey Eyes, and
uplifting, depressing music.
Uplifting, depressing music. Yeah,
I love that because it's like
funny.
He's like...
but you know what the gag is? The gag is the lyrics are all positive and biblical. Nice. But it sounds like it's coming from the pit of, like, the music sounds like the pit of hell. It's like, what is this dystopian fuzz guitar and this guy screaming like into a distorted microphone? Yeah, but if you listen to the lyrics, it's mostly talking about people repenting or redeeming qualities so that you can change your life. It's actually positive. It's positive. It's uplifting, but it sounds like it's depressing. So that was the joke. And then tropical depression is more of that, but more from a more attack. Like, we got to attack this thing. Like, we got to expose it without negativity. Of course, it's a positive album, but we have to attack this nonsense because, like I said, there is no logical reason why. And let's take myself and my friend out of this. There's no logical reason why a woman who likes a man in this world and a man who likes a woman in this world, and they both agree they should be together, why an outside stimulus should say they shouldn't. The point up to which the mob, if you want to call it, or social media or peer pressure has gotten, especially against American women. American women 25 to 40 can't make a decision on anything without their friends, the internet, or some poll on Twitter telling them what to do, and they're all going to destruction because, like you said, the more people you involve in your life in this world, there's a lot of people, a lot of problems, a lot of jealousy, a lot of insecurity. The last people you should be involving in your happiness is total strangers on the internet. Sorry, somebody's got to say it.
I think the thing is, here he is, everybody. We love
There it
you.
is. I mean, you should not be asking. Look, it's like, okay, so you're a 25-year-old gorgeous woman, and a nice guy takes you out to dinner. You like him, and then you go on the internet and say, hey, should I continue seeing this guy? 90% of your comments are going to be the little wannabe suitors who are on your Instagram telling you he's a cheater and you shouldn't trust him. So that it's better. They feel, even though they'll never have you, they feel it's better that you have nothing.
Right.
So why would you put yourself in? I mean, this is old world knowledge. I mean, can't somebody's Italian grandma come and do a podcast and tell you these things? It's like, come on. This is old world knowledge. Don't let people in your personal business. That you don't do it. And I don't know it. It almost, I know, like you said, it's not everyone's seeing this, but sometimes it feels like, am I the only person left on planet Earth that sees this? Is this insane?
Well,
I mean,
no. But this is the truth, and I'm going to get to your song "Subhuman" in 1 second.
Yeah,
is the fact that no, people do see it, and that's why even with Twitter, I used to get involved in these back and forths on Twitter. I've saved so much energy I'll look at Twitter and I'll think something, then I'll scroll and see 3 comments. And by the 3rd comment, my comment is there. I don't have to comment anymore. And 46% of the users on Twitters are bots that are set up by the corporations, bots that are set up by, different artists, etc. When they see keywords, they say stuff to defend them. And this is just another thing with technology. So, which I enjoy is Zen, Buddhism, staying in the moment. The past is in the past. Tomorrow is tomorrow. And the Stoics, I can't control people, places, or things. It's how we react to it. Christianity, God takes care of the birds, and the lily of the valley, was more beautiful than Solomon. If God cares about the sparrows that fall, he cares about you. In other words, it's all there for you. It's kind of like having a boundary where you just keep that other stuff out. And that's the world, because what is the world trying to do? They're trying to sell you something. They're trying to influence you. They want me to get that Audi. They want me to get that Les Paul. But guess what? I'm happy playing out my blinged out Paul Stanley model. That's what I'm doing. So,
right.
Hey, people.
Come on, people. Bust out that Iceman from 1995. Don't buy Gene Simmons stuff. Buy Paul.
Actually, what's great is at Carlino Guitars, when you get a chance, Eddie Carlino sponsors Melted, and he did a blinged out PS 120 for me. And, my mom said, and he also blinged out a mic for me. And my mom says, if you can't sing or play, at least look good. And I said, okay, Mom,
that makes sense.
Why don't, and that's why I'm doing my art. So, and I put out my messages, but what I really appreciated as well was Subhuman, the video as well, which was in a Snapchat format. It's so true. What inspired you? Because I could tell you mine, but I want to hear you first. Subhuman, and what influenced you to write that song?
Thank you. Yeah, Subhuman is basically, social services. When you have to go, get on any social service, the lines are long. Whatever they give you is definitely not enough. And then the people who want to work, because there's a difference between someone who loses their job. Let's say you're in a right to work state, you lose your job abruptly for no good reason, and you're living paycheck to paycheck. Well, the system should be able to catch that person and immediately supplement the rent, or something, like a one-time thing that fixes the problem, so that you can continue looking for a job or get on your feet immediately. The system is not designed for that. The system is designed for people not to get out of the system. So it's yeah, you get, let's say you get food stamps, it's some food stamps, but it's definitely not enough to feed your family. Let's say you get cash benefits. You can't live on that, and then if you have to get some other benefit, uh, you know, it takes months to or weeks sometimes to verify. So let's say a person who doesn't have any lingering health issues, but they just happen to find themselves living paycheck to paycheck, like in a state like California or New York. It's very expensive to even have a very modest living. Um, People are falling into homelessness and having their lives destroyed almost irreparably, for not because they've done anything wrong, but because the failsafe, one, it's too easy to get fired with no compensation, and two, if you go to the system for help, it takes weeks to help you out, and especially if you're somebody who was working in a trade or the corporate world where you have some accomplishments. That person who's you're asking for help, may who works for the system, the government, may very well be jealous of you, and on purpose says, "Hey, now I got you," sticking it to the man, and not kick him when he's down. And there's a sinister human element in social services. There really is. They don't have competent, loving, understanding people. I mean, it seems like they have the worst people you could possibly think of to help somebody who's in trouble.
Well,
So
my mom is a social worker, and I always joke with her, and I say, "Is the state like an inch away from ripping away your license?" I mean, did you get the compassion with that lady? And we'll have a laugh. But
yeah, well, she's doing it right. You're right to joke like that, because I mean, they're very few and far between. Even in the courts, even in the court system, there's very few and far between people who understand or who are competent, and there's a lot of collateral damage that's it's not only that person they're affecting. You're affecting maybe 4 or 5 generations of a family because of these dumb decisions, or just incompetence. So that's what Subhuman is about. It's basically, it's literally just like I said, it's conjecture. Guy gets a job. He gets on the job site. He ticks off the wrong guy who's been there for 20 years, who knows he's going to be fired. But he gets the guy fired. Then he can't, get back on his feet for a while, and it was like a subhuman existence for a while. And then the video relates that too. It's a guy taking care of his sick mom. He lost his job, abruptly. His mom was okay, but now he went to the system, get Medicaid, Medicare, and she winds up dying over, a pill or two. And this is happening, daily in the United States. And it's incompetence, and it's bureaucracy, and it's just plain evil. And that's what Subhuman's about.
well, the other thing is corporations have been given a person status.
Yes.
But that person doesn't seem to care about other people. And I'm not knocking it. It is what it is with the tax breaks and some of these corporations not paying taxes. Number one, to help. But there's a couple instances I want to share with you that are ongoing right now in a friend's life. My friend was on unemployment. In this state, you can go and work for how many hours and make, maybe let's just call it, make 200 extra a week to do the right thing. Well, he went to work at Walmart, which is notorious. 40% of the people that work at Walmart are on food stamps because they can't make enough money working at Walmart. My friend worked there for 2 days. It was a dangerous situation. He left. They denied his unemployment benefits, and then they gave him the back benefits of $10,000. And then they said to him, because of Walmart, we want $30,000 back. You can pay us $600 a month at 12% interest. So you are not far off, my friend, when you talk about Subhuman and the time and making people aware of it, because, again, people used to come to the United States to find a better life. We are now the 27th country to do that. There's 26 other countries we can go to get a better shot. So that's why when I, heard of it, I said, I'm glad that you're pointing this out, and more people should know about it and then do something about it. But again, what do you do when, it's the big money corporations, which we're seeing in the Congress now fighting back and forth with what was going on in Georgia and the voting rights. Some of the politicians were like, no, we'll take your money, but don't tell us how to do policy. So it's really tough. But thank you so much for pointing that out, because these are people's lives. And if we're saying we're a caring nation and we love people, then let's show it. Yeah.
And there's something that's very lost in today's zeitgeist, I guess. People live in that headspace of the modern world, and I encourage everyone to get out of it. That's not good. But it collateral damage. There seems to be no accountability or even acknowledgement that what you do ripples, and there's positive and negative long-term effects to everything, especially anything serious that you do. And people just they don't want to even acknowledge that is a concept in reality. It's very bizarre.
Well, for you and your background and with the Bible, what you do, there is an eternity that you have to contend with. And when I turned the TV on last week, I watched The Gladiator for a little bit. And Russell Crowe got up before they had a battle, and he said these two things. You're dead already, your Elysians, so don't worry about it. And two, what you do echoes in eternity. So,
that's Marcus Aurelius' real quote. Yeah.
Yes. So it's like, getting the message out. But I guess the bottom line is we put our art out, and if people can become aware of it, it's good for them. It's been my own experience, through life experience, where even one of the greatest basketball players of all time, Magic Johnson, said when they asked him, how do you compete against the younger players? They have so much energy. He goes, I know how to use my energy, when to start, when to stop, how to refresh. Like you say, you go to the gym, you do your certain workouts, etc. I wanted to ask you a question about another illusion, because you've played at all these places, the Viper Room, Rainbow, Whiskey A Go-Go, and many more. And I just really wanted to know how you feel about, playing at these places must have been somewhat of a thrill. But as far as, that and fame in general.
Okay. Well, so like I said, my thing was when I was a small boy, I set out, it was like, okay, I'm going to be the best. And I'm actually a fan of Americana. Okay. So landmarks, American history, and then you got the place like the Whiskey, the Doors broke there, Van Halen broke there, the Rainbow, Richie Blackmore sits around there. So when I, set out to, be a legitimate, national artist, that's where I operated out of. I said, this is the place for rock and roll in America. There's no other place. CB's is gone. I mean, I grew up sneaking into CBGB and, going to concerts there well into until it was closed down. But it's gone. There's no East Coast, place where it's like, this is rock and roll. So I went over to Hollywood as a total opposite as to the average person. I went over there to actually be a serious artist and be associated with something American, which is the greatness of the Sunset Strip, not the debauchery of the 80s or all the negative things that came to be associated with. But I said, and in Hollywood, on this mountain, on this hill, great art has been done. And I just went there to work. I first gig I did in Hollywood was headlining the Whiskey A Go-Go. I headlined the place for 20 times or so. I headlined the Rainbow 20 times or so. Headlined the Viper Room once, the Canyon Club twice in the Agora Hills. and I did nothing but those big shows, but festival called Party in the Parking Lot, which is a yearly festival. They do it, no, sorry, they do it twice a year in the parking lot of the Rainbow Bar and Grill. They empty it out, and a couple of thousand people fit in there. So it was Enough's Enough, George Lynch's Lynch Mob. So I've always been around those big guys because I said this is the level I'm going to operate at. I'm going to prove myself and go, and that's what I did with these venues. But and fame in general, I did a lot of celebrity stuff, celebrity boxing, the acting on the novela. That was something that got me in front of a lot of people. I was in a lot of gossip rags too, in the early 2013. But I always saw it as a means, as a tool, because the way I see it is like this: look, I know what I have to do, and this is an art. This is art and fun to me. These are things that I want to do. There are no women or alcohol or money attached to this. I like doing this. Now it would be nice to make some money. So remember that. When you book something, make sure you're getting paid. But my ultimate goal is to build a career that eclipses well, initially, is on par with or eclipses, the Rat Packs and the Frank Sinatras and the Michael Jackson. That's what I'm trying to build, a legacy. I don't care about the worldly stuff. I'm a young guy. I'm handsome. I take care of myself. If I wanted to be a whoremonger, I could, but I'm not because I serve God, and I don't need that type of, look, first of all the women in the world aren't going to change your life. They're not going to make it better. In fact, you're going to only bring problems. You're only going to bring problems being promiscuous. And I've found that out by studying all the greats. What brought down all the greats? Alcohol, drugs, and women. That's it. That pick me a rock star that died too early or his career fell apart. Those are the problems. So these things. So I treat it more like an athlete. Like I'm an athlete. I actually train for music. I actually, if I have a concert or a tour coming up, I'm drilling like it's a training regimen. Like I see this more as a boxing match. I feel that when I go on stage, it's a boxing match. I have to defeat the audience. And what I mean by that is I have to give them a stellar performance that makes them happy. I have to defeat that ego, that id inside of them that the world has put in them to say, I don't like this. Let's not clap. Let's not cheer. I have to provide a service to them that overcomes their ego. That's how I see it. So it's older style artist. Like I want to elicit a response from the audience for their benefit. It has nothing to do with me. And the way I see it is, if I can't do that, I don't deserve to be there, which is a flying contrast to everyone else who goes to Hollywood, which is, hey, I may not have talent, I may not be able to do anything, but I want to be the star. So I want to be there, and I can't wait till everybody comes to see me. It's all about me, and I need this, and I need that. I'm total opposite. I went there with an old school, blue collar kind of New Jersey rock star mentality. Like you still got one foot in the old world, and you still, go to your day job or you help your dad with something in the garage, and you get dressed up on Fridays and Saturdays to go to a VH1 event, and nobody knows. Like that's the old school way of doing it. That's what I like. I don't like this modern way of, provide nothing, want everything. I think it's very stupid. It's bad for audiences, and it's bad for the soul of the entertainer because, like you said, no matter how many followers they get, they're always going to be depressed because there is no value in them. They've invested in vanity and immorality and whatever else ality that's bad for them as an individual. And at the end of the day, they have nothing to show for it, and they're depressed. So I'm not depressed. I'm happy because I'm doing it the right way. This is a job. This is an art. Go out there, kick butt, go home. That's how I see it.
No, I think it's exciting. And that's, pre-COVID was, you're on a national tour, with Soulfly and Toxic Holocaust. And I think your last show is when they shut her down. But I saw you played at Tipitina's in New Orleans. I lived in New Orleans for a bit. You were up in Boston. You were all over. Have you been to Europe yet? Have we gotten you?
No, I am working. Well, that was the next step after the Soulfly tour. I immediately was working on a European tour, but that obviously got shut down because of the COVID thing. But nothing was booked. but that's what I'm working on right now. So I'm actually talking to a few promoters that are very good, and trying to see if we can get something done. And then in September, I'm starting a tour for this album here domestically. I'm just gonna find the venues up and down the East Coast that are open and go to them. But yeah, but Europe is somewhere I want to go. Japan and Australia as well. Those
Well,
are places
yeah.
I
Well,
want to go.
the Japanese metal had an influence on you, correct?
Yeah, Hide, X Japan, Seikimatsu. Yeah, a lot of those guys.
That's good stuff. Well, no, I really appreciate your art, your message, and I think to be able to take 19 A sides that you've worked over for 5 years and put them in a double album, why not?
Why not? And everyone's like, it's nuts. It's nobody's doing it. But I'm like, yeah, but that's rock and roll. I mean, like you said, there's 60,000, you said,
Yeah.
60,000 songs a day
Yes.
on YouTube. I wish I could hug all these people and tell them to quit. You know, no, seriously. I mean, this single culture, it's like, well, this girl wants to be an influencer. Okay. Then she goes to a studio and she develops a quote unquote single with a producer. Okay. And then she puts it on Spotify. So she pays somebody to put it on Spotify for her. Great. But between that and that, she's abused. She's sexually assaulted. She's told that if she doesn't put out, she's not going to have a single. And then she's promised some record deal and nobody's giving it to her anyway. This is like one of the worst human catastrophes, one of the most horrible things going on in the industry, in the world today, is this Instagram culture is killing people. It's killing their soul. And I really wish people would just say, look yourself in the mirror. If you're not Celine Dion, if you're not Whitney Houston, you're not even, a punk girl, that's just stop looking for fame. Fame is not good if you don't have something to offer. Fame is going to drive you nuts if you don't have anything to offer, because deep down inside, you don't deserve to be there. And that's what drives people nuts, and so I would say it's not easy. Look, I'll give you a great example. I was 2012, 2013. I was living in Miami. I didn't even own a suit, but this was like at the height of the Marry Me Cindy stuff and a lot of the celebrity stuff. I was on all kinds of, but I didn't really go out much, just stuck to myself and went to the beach, the regular stuff. Well, a friend of mine that works for Viacom said, hey, you should come to the red carpet at this, live MTV branded event. And, it was an award show. And I'm like, oh, here we go. So I went to Dee Dee's discount, $30, bought a suit that was like 2 sizes too big. It was the leg size was too long, so I cut the bottom.
You're a tailor as well.
Yeah, so I cut the bottom and I glued the bottom, made it look like a real tailored suit. And I went out there and it looked okay. And I didn't even drive there. I just decided to hop on the bus because it went straight down, Dixie Highway. So I went straight down to Miami. And I get up there and I'm at the VIP area, cordoned off. It's like you have to get through 3 ropes to get there. And there are a lot of these little this is like the advent of the influencers, 2013. There's all these little girls there and young guys, maybe they're 20, 21 years old. And they're all gushing over, oh, look at Lance Bass. Oh, look at that. And I'm sitting in the back by a couch all by myself. And I go on the phone. I'm like, oh, forget this. I'm over this. So the guy comes from MTV, and they're all currying to talk to him because he has an MTV badge, and everyone knows he's running the event. And he goes, oh, Sergio, how you doing? Oh, man, I haven't seen you in a few years since New York. Dude, I've been following you online, and I see your CD, and you did a thing with Snooki and Jay Leno, and oh, man, I saw you on ABC and, TV Land Awards and all that. Oh, wow, you're doing it, man. You're doing it. Great. Oh, man, I love it. But he said enough keywords to where these little like teeny boppers started Googling me, and the level of depravity in these people, the minute he left, they go, oh, Sergio, we just love Marry Me Cindy, and we love Bow Down too. Oh, man, we listen to that all the time. And because now I'm cool. And I was so disgusted, I just let them calm down, and then I left. I said, I can't do this. So that's my mentality. I was just like, yeah, but these are the people who are so-called influencing your children. These kinds of people.
Right, and I think the other thing is to sometimes being able to see is a curse. And but I'd rather be able to see. And
it's better, yeah. It's better.
And you see as well. We appreciate your talent. When you come up to Boston, love to come over and be there. I just really hope that things loosen up a little bit so we can.
Yeah.
Get...
Last time I was in Boston, it was Brighton Music Hall, and I've been speaking to them. So once this clears up, I think I'll be back there, or somewhere else nearby that area, downtown.
Just want to say thank you so much for joining me on Melted. I really enjoyed learning about you. How you put out a double album during quarantine is being a rock star. So I'm glad you're doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Sergio Michel, one of the best, and yo quiero decir gracias por tu tiempo y Dios te bendices, como acento feo.
All right, man.
We'll talk to you soon.
Very good, very good. Okay.
Have a great
Bye.
day.
Bye, man.
Bye. And that's Sergio Michel. What a really talented musician, great guitarist, lyricist. Just came out with Tropical Depression, 19 songs. And just to talk about some of his past albums, Marry Me Cindy, Pay Eyes, uplifting, depressing music, Cry Out, and now Tropical Depression. So when you get a chance, Google Sergio Michel. He's on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere you go, he's there. And he really has something to say if you pay attention to the lyrics, which are amazing. And this is Frankie Hollywood with Melted. Thank you, Sergio Michel. We want to thank Raquel Figlo for setting this up. And what a great day. Have a fun weekend, everybody. Or y'all down south. Have a good one.